Hey, this is Corey Barnes.
And this is Lisa Caperton, and you're listening to Her Turn to Talk.
So I've been doing some things.
Okay, what have you been doing?
I've been trying to get women together to do fun activities that don't include drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
So I tried to get some women together to do the table tours with Megan, who we have interviewed here on the show. And that didn't work out because it was on Super Bowl Sunday. But the women who were going to go still wanted to get together. So we ended up going to a ceramics painting, not a class, but a storefront in Boulder called Color Me Mine.
Yes,
and
I've heard of those. Yeah.
I've never been there before. And it was great. It was beautiful inside, and it was so much fun. And you don't believe you need to be an artist. If you can just sit down and pick up a paintbrush, you kind of just go with it. And so me and a bunch of other women, we did this, and we had a blast. We were just chatting away. We're probably there for like 4 hours. We just had such a great time. They served tea and coffee, and we had a great view of Pearl Street. So, we were able to look outside and people watch, and we had some meaningful talks and, built some friendships, and it was really, really great. And it's inspiring. And so I won't get to see what my piece of art is yet because they're going to put it in the kiln and then glaze it.
My sister-in-law used to work at one of those. Oh. I don't know if it was I don't think it was called Color Me Mine, but it was one of those type of places.
I've been.
So we have a lot of stuff that the kids made, from there.
I'd been as an adult. It was great.
Yeah,
I had been one like in high school. But it was kind of cheesy, and this one was real nice.
Yeah.
And had many different ceramics that you could choose from that were pretty hip and cool. And so then we had dinner afterwards too at Illegal Pete's, and it was just such a great time. And so I was really inspired to try to get more and more people together. And so I also have invited some women to join me at a restorative, guided meditative silks class. And when I mean silks, it's like a silk hammock. And you can do aerial yoga in it, but the class that I'm interested in, it kind of gets you ready for bed. And so I've invited some women to do that, and I'm part of all these different groups now, and I've had some inquiries, and I just love this idea of bringing women together. And there's this newfound confidence that's happening within me. I think I'm part of a band.
Well, that's awesome.
Yep.
Like you're a rock star?
I think I'm part of a band.
That's awesome.
I sang with a band
on
Friday.
Are these the people that you went to game night with?
Yep.
Really?
Yep. And I met up with them Friday night, and they said, "You want to come jam band?" And I was like, "Sure." And I showed up, and I was like, I'm not going to say I'm nervous. I'm not going to say I'm scared. I'm just going to do it. I didn't play myself up or anything like that. I was just kind of like the new kid.
Yeah.
And I had so much fun.
That's
and there was
awesome.
a bass guitar player and a guitarist and a drummer. And don't get me wrong, I was messing up all over the place. The song that they had me audition with was Eye of the Tiger.
Really?
Not Beyonce or the most
right.
whatever.
No, I know,
it
like
is.
old school Rocky style.
Yes, all old school Rocky. And so a couple days later, I got a call back and asked to
Corey, you had a real audition.
No, it wasn't a real audition. But I've been saying, I think I'm in a band because I got a message saying, can you learn Don't Stop Believin' by Journey and be ready by next Friday? I said, yeah, sure. So I think I'm in a band.
What's the band name?
I think at once the band name was Habanero, and then it was Practical Compassion, and now it's something else. I don't know.
How many people are in the band?
There is a guitarist, a bass guitarist, a drummer. They're all real good.
Yeah.
And then my friend Annie, she plays the piano a little bit. The banana shaker. It's like a banana that you shake. She does vocals too, but she's not necessarily interested in being
like
the
a
lead.
Yeah.
So she said, "I want you to be the lead. I want you to be the lead." And I had my shakers too. So I'll be the lead vocals and shaker. But some of the guys sang too. So, but this newfound confidence, I don't know what's happening to me. And I think it has something to do with the show.
That's exciting.
And so yeah, it is exciting.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
That's
but
super
not
exciting.
too overly excited. I'm like, this is just great. This is great. I feel like I'm growing up a little bit. I'm like hitting this new level. I'm making all kinds of new friends all over the place. And it's really wonderful. I've invited several of the women that were on this podcast in the past to come do these things too. Why not?
Yeah.
A lot of women, we have trouble making new friends, especially when we're older or we're not in school or something like that. So I figured I have this thing in me that wants to bring people together, and people tell me that I do it well. So I'm believing them
Well,
and
that's
just
so
rolling
fun.
with it. Yeah.
Well, we're going to
excited
have
about that.
to, maybe one day you guys get more practice at your band and you have a music video and we'll put it up for everybody.
Yeah.
That'll be exciting.
That's a great idea. That's a great one. Well, I'd like to talk about one of my favorite women of all time, a badass woman. Her name is Jane Goodall. And if you don't know about Jane Goodall, then get to know her. Jane is something else. I've always loved monkeys. In 5th grade, I asked the teacher if she would please call me Monkey Head Barnes. And I would write on my papers, Monkey Head Barnes. I loved monkeys. I loved orangutans. I had stickers of them. I don't know. I loved monkeys. So Jane Goodall was the monkey woman, born on April 3rd, 1934. She is still alive. She's in her 80s. In London, England. Jane Goodall set out to Tanzania in 1960 to study wild chimpanzees. She immersed herself in their lives, bypassing more rigid procedures to make discoveries about primate behavior that have continued to shape scientific discourse. Jane is a famous animal rights activist and environmentalist. She made many discoveries in her long-term research into chimpanzee society about their behavior, diet, and interactions with one another. She's been working with these chimpanzees, like next to them, in front of them. She travels extensively, giving lectures on primates and their behavior, and it is a name that is easily recognized. She started the Jane Goodall Institute, which now has 19 offices across the globe, and she spends a significant portion of her time fighting for chimpanzees' rights. I actually got to see her live at the CU Boulder here in Colorado in either 2015 or 2016.
I feel like I remember you going to see that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. It was a gift, a ticket. They said, "Would you like to come with me?" I said, "Yes." I couldn't believe it.
It's your monkey head dream comes true.
Oh my gosh. And that was an emotional, amazing speech, and just to see her in the flesh was just something else. Very, very positive woman, spiritual woman. Jane is known best for studying chimpanzees in the Goembe Stream National Park located in Tanzania during 1960. She hadn't had formal college training in scientific studies, which is accredited for her particular knack for picking up on nuances that quantitative studies might miss. She made careful notes of different chimpanzees' personalities, as well as noting they were able to reason and feel sorrow and joy. She's also well known for giving the chimps in her studies names instead of simply using the widely held practice of assigning numbers to each animals. Again, really, she was someone who was tapping into these chimpanzees' emotions and making discoveries and writing papers about them. She discovered that they use tools, a fact which shocked many in the science community. She also discovered that they are aggressive enough to eat smaller primates, as in the case of the Columbus. She documented many behaviors that showcase their emotional sides, such as patting, scratching, aggressive behaviors, and even love. This was a sizable finding that challenged many ideas and thoughts on chimp behavior and diet. She's the only human to have become fully accepted into chimpanzee society. Like if you look her up, there's pictures of her like hugging the chimpanzees and them hugging her. And these are wild animals. You can find more information here at historynet.com/Jane Goodall. And I have a few funny facts about Jane that I'd like to share.
Okay, share 'em.
Jane Goodall has expressed a strong fascination with Bigfoot. Are you surprised? I'm not.
No.
And when asked if she believes in God, Jane said in September 2010, "I don't have any idea of who or what God is, but I do believe in some great spiritual power. I feel it particularly when I'm out in nature. It's just something that's bigger and stronger than what I am or what anybody is. I feel it, and it's enough for me." I love that. And that's how she came across on that stage that day. Just this spiritual being sharing her love. And one other thing, Goodall suffers from prosopagnosia. It's where you don't recognize people's faces.
Oh, yeah.
Travis, you know how to say that correctly? Prosopagnosia. It's long.
Anyway, she can't see. She doesn't recognize faces.
Yeah, difficult to recognize familiar faces. So very interesting facts about Jane. We have another woman who's coming on the show today who is definitely someone who's in touch with nature. Her name is Marina Fleming. Marina worked with Knowles, the National Outdoor Leadership School, for several years before becoming the associate director at Women's Wilderness, primarily overseeing girls, women, and LGBTQ courses. Let's welcome Marina to the show. I'd love to hear more about the Women's Wilderness and what you do there.
Yeah, so Women's Wilderness is a 22-year-old nonprofit based here in Boulder, Colorado. We do outdoor programming for girls, women, and LGBTQ plus folks, primarily through outdoor experiences like backpacking, hiking, rock climbing, and our main focuses are to address health, so both physical and mental health, and emotional stewardship and connection to the outdoors, as well as leadership development. So it's taken on a lot of different iterations throughout its couple decades history, but it's an incredible place to work. And really just feel grateful to be a part of that community.
So are these like classes or camps?
All of the above. So right now, we do the bulk of our programming in the summertime. We do courses for elementary girls, aged 3rd through 5th. Those are more of like foundational first experience outside, away from family or known community. We meet at NCAR Trailhead. They do a couple days of hiking.
I bet we've seen you guys out there before.
Yeah, a gaggle of 12 young girls, like both so excited and so nervous on the first couple days, and then they truly just come out of their shells throughout the week. They get to go rock climbing for a day, and then they also do an overnight camping trip down to Golden Gate Canyon State Park. And so really just trying to like make that first positive experience with girls to see themselves outside, to see themselves in a community of other girls. And then from there, our courses, they're like progress, I suppose is the word I'm looking for. And so our middle school girls, they get to go on 8-day camping trips up in Wyoming primarily. They do 6 days of backpacking in the snowy range, 2 days of climbing.
That's awesome. And this is year round?
Summertime mostly.
Gotcha.
So June through August. And then our high school courses are just a longer iteration of that. And then we do for girls also year-round climbing program called Girls Lead for Life. And we're very lucky to be partnering with Earth Treks in both Golden and Englewood to utilize their space. They compensate day passes, and they're just like the best hosts ever. And that's 5th through 7th. And we're really trying to target a really formative time for a lot of girls. If you can think back to like what your life might have been like at 5th or 6th or 7th grade, I could have used it.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's a really special program. In the spring, the girls get to finish with an outdoor climbing day on North Table. And yeah, it's just really special.
I've seen that you guys have a weekend retreat coming up in the summer for women.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. I saw that. It was like Sisters Summit or some Summit Sisters.
Yeah, for sure. So our girls programming, it feels kind of like the bread and butter, but we also do a slew of women's programming. Summit Sisters is, I would say, probably our biggest women's event of the year. So we do 3 days up at Allen's Park at Meadow Mountain Ranch. If anyone was a Girl Scout back in the day, we utilize their space, and it's just an opportunity to gather incredible people in the community, people like Christy Peoples.
Yes, we
to
love
come
Christy
and bring,
Peoples.
to come and bring their strengths and their passion and their energy, and to not only connect and share their skills, but to get rejuvenated by the women that show up there. So we like to do a mix of like technical outdoor skills, opportunities for people to just go hiking, be outside, do some trail running, look at the stars and learn about astronomy, other things like how to identify edibles in the wild, or tap into more creative sides of like journaling and how to incorporate nature into that, or how to be more mindful in your body. We've had stuff around dance.
Is there different facilitators for each of these, or do you know all of this information?
No, oh gosh, I should back up. Yes, we're really fortunate to have about 30 presenters that come every year.
Whoa, that's a lot.
It's incredible.
It's a big deal.
It is. It really is. And so all of these folks are just people that have either been in the women's wilderness community for some time, or it's through the women's wilderness community that we're connected to them. And so we kind of have like our staples of people that come back year after year, and their courses and classes are always filled up. And then we try to also bring in a new cast of characters every year, to really diversify what that experience is.
And are you camping, or are you staying in a lodge, or?
Yeah,
or
great
both?
question. It's a little bit of both. So Meadow Mountain Ranch, as I mentioned, is an old, or I guess it's still current, Girl Scouts facility. And so they have tent cabins, we call them tabins, with bunks inside, so people can come with bedding if they want, or they can come with like a sleeping bag kind of situation, and they can stay in the tabins, make some new friends, or they can bring or borrow a tent and spread out throughout the grounds. So it really is an opportunity for people to just relax and to be outside and not have to haul a bunch of gear, or procure it in some way. Or it's an opportunity for people to have that protected space at night and to have silence and to hear the bugs around you and to just relax. There's no cell phone service up at Meadow Mountain Ranch, which is like, I would say 80% of the beauty of it is that it just gives folks the opportunity to slow down, to connect, to reconnect, and to just bring the pace down a bit.
What developed this passion for the outdoors, and then also wanting to help other girls and women have that empowerment to be outdoors?
Yeah, it's kind of felt like a circuitous journey to get here. I grew up outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And so my version of getting outside and into nature was team sports, group sports growing up. So like definitely 4-year-old Muppet soccer was my life. And then just progressed through basketball and softball and running. And that was my version of community. That was my version of self-expression. How I felt like most whole and happy in my body was just being active and being able to relate and develop friendships through sports. And so the idea of 8-year-olds going camping without their families is so foreign to me, or a foreign concept to my 8-year-old self. But when I was in college, I went to College of Charleston in South Carolina. I was an intern through the Counseling and Substance Abuse Services Center for my career there. And the gentleman who I worked for, he had hiked the Appalachian Trail a couple times, and he just had so much passion for getting people outside. And so through this, we started developing what eventually turned into an outdoor program at College of Charleston. I don't know if you all are familiar with Charleston, but it's on the beach. Again, wilderness takes on all kinds of forms, but it looks very different than it does out west. And so we would put together backpacking trips to take college students up to North Carolina. And that was like really my first foray of like going outside, being in a tent, carrying a backpack. And it was just really formative. And so after college, I moved to Boulder, actually. I did a couple years of AmeriCorps, which is a national service program. And just being here, you're surrounded in it. And I suppose previous to that, I rode my bike across the country, and one of the people that was on that trip was finishing up at CU and was very well connected into how to get in the mountains and how to go backpacking. And so it was a natural fit for when I moved here to be able to settle in and have a buddy to go outside with. So that's kind of like the budding story. Yeah.
That's awesome. You've done a lot of stuff. And real quick, you talk about college. You finished high school and college combined in 3.5 years each.
3.5 years each.
Okay,
yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, she's
No.
genius.
No.
So that's still pretty impressive, though.
I was motivated.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my mom would describe me as a kiddo that was running before she knew how to walk. Yeah.
It sounds like, well, not that it sounds like, I actually have a question for you. You've made one friend that we've heard about. With these retreats, with this program, are people making lifelong friends? Have you made lifelong friends through all of this?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say relationships with other women has been one of these threads that has been absolutely incredible and heightened through being on teams, through going into the backcountry, through really just experiencing the world through shared connections outside. And I think like those really lend themselves to kind of like your best version of self, whether that's like slowing down, being able to mindfully connect and have a good conversation, or to just cheer each other on and to like really see how strong we can be as individuals and just cheerlead that like crazy. So very, very fortunate to have, I feel like I have a big team of women. And most all of those relate back to some kind of formative outdoor experience that I've had.
And as associate director, are you finding yourself behind the desk often, or is this a position where you are out of the office and out and about?
No, I am mostly behind a computer. My life has shifted quite a bit, but in my personal life, I still get out as much as possible. I would say that is the big sacrifice by taking a role like this, but still able to work our staff training every year. Even going to sneak away this spring and go down to the Southwest and work a NOLS course, which I'm really excited about. It's for an all-girls school out in California. And so to be able to go into the field with similar aged girls, similar demographics of what we take out on Women's Wilderness, but I'm not able to go into the field during the height of our summer. And so this is like a nice balance.
I want to hear about the NOLS experience. We have a mutual friend who had a son who did one of the NOLS. I don't know what you call them. They're not retreats. They're working. You're
Courses,
doing
yeah.
stuff, courses in Alaska. And that's where you did some training there too?
Yeah, that's actually where I started working for NOLS back in 2013. They have fellowships, diversity, equity, and inclusion fellowships, and I was really fortunate to be able to have one of those in 2013. And so I moved up to Alaska. It was the first time I'd ever been there. At that point, I was already ticking off all the states, and I think it was like my 40-something state, and I was like, I'll move there, sure. And so NOLS is based in and headquarters in Lander, Wyoming. But they have campuses all over the world. And so
What does NOLS stand for?
previously the National Outdoor Leadership School, but like many organizations have now shortened to officially be NOLS.
NOLS.
They're 50-something odd years old, and so they do courses anywhere from 7 days up to semesters, so about 3 months in length. And depending on the skill set, or depending on the length or the place that you want to go throughout the world, they are teaching mostly leadership and technical outdoor skills to folks who have either never done it before, want to do something in a different area, or just looking to connect with peers.
I mean, they sound amazing. Our friend whose son went, I think he went right after high school before college, and he did 3 months in Alaska, and they did backpacking and sea kayaking and all of this crazy stuff. And she was like, I don't really hear from him. I assume he's out there and okay.
Yeah.
But what skills that are being taught? I mean, what an amazing experience that is being given to these young people, or anyone who's doing that. And I'm sure for the teachers and instructors as well.
Absolutely. I think for anyone who is getting people outside, it is a gift. And anyone who is able to be able to tap out of life for either like 1 day or 3 months and go outside, it is a gift for sure. And I would say the most courses that NOLS is running, and similar to Women's Wilderness, we do mostly hiking, backpacking trips. It is the most accessible of outdoors programs that I would say a lot of people can run. We don't require previous skills, knowledge, etc. And generally speaking, you put a backpack on and it hurts for a couple days, but your body gets strong in it. And you can walk anywhere.
Right.
Like,
I gotta ask, has there been any animal encounters, any bear encounters, anything exciting or story worthy that you can tell us about?
Yes, always. There are definitely, we have to like remind our students and ourselves that when we go into the backcountry, we are entering another being's home.
Yeah.
Like that is, we like to think that kind of like own the joint wherever we go, and that's just not true in a wilderness context. So it depends where you go. I've actually seen more bears here in Colorado than I ever saw in Wyoming.
Any real close?
Here, yes, I have seen some black bears pretty close in the Indian Peaks, and probably closer than I ever really care to in the future. I saw some brown bears up in Alaska, but they were from a far enough distance away, not in a backcountry trip, but on boats, etc. And then, I don't know, I think trying to share that seeing wildlife is a really cool opportunity and using it more as a teachable moment rather than like, oh, these big scary things.
Yeah.
And that is what is really cool about programs like Women's Wilderness or NOLS, is that there's so much learning and education that goes on in addition to let's just go backpacking and have a great time for 30 days. Like really the backpacking or the kayaking or the skiing or whatever the skill type is, that's just like the vehicle for being able to teach so much more below the surface, whether it's
Right, like life skills,
or,
right?
Yeah.
Emotional skills, self-confidence, all of these things. I wanted to tap into something that I think is important to talk about, that the women's wilderness is for not just women, and not just girls, but the LGBTQ plus community as well, non-binary people as well. And I just want to touch on that, because we kind of talked to, when we had Christy on here, we talked about her being this visual for people of color out on the trail. And recently I follow somebody on Instagram, and Patty Gonia, I don't know if you guys know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Patty with those shoes.
They're so amazing. So there was a post on there about people giving people a hard time for dressing in drag or being being queer, being whatever, all these different things that people can say to other people of you shouldn't be here. And I love that Women's Wilderness is bringing that, the inclusivity, to that we are all belong, right? And I just really wanted to point that out and give you guys props for making that known and making that, a possibility to say that, all of us are welcome here in this, in this area.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And that is like such a big part of the origin story of Women's Wilderness, and recognizing that outdoor experiences 20-something years ago were so heavily dominated, not that they aren't still, by men, for men, and for boys. And so Women's Wilderness and just why it exists today is recognizing that the outdoor industry can be so much more to so many more people. And so I wouldn't say like anyone is doing it 100% if they're not being led by those identities themselves, but we're sure trying, and are really excited to continue to expand the face of who feels comfortable and safe outside.
I love that. And I just want to say thank you for doing that. I think it's so important that people are out there doing that, that work.
What are you doing at Longmont Community Justice Partnership?
It is one of my favorite places to volunteer. So Longmont Community Justice Partnership, or more affectionately LCJP, they're a restorative justice organization based in Longmont. And are y'all familiar with restorative justice?
No, tell us.
It's an alternative to ushering people through the traditional justice system. And so LCJP is kind of like a diversion program for low-level infractions that frequently youth are finding themselves in, making choices that they probably would not have made if they were able to like slow down or have more resources or have more support in their lives. And so it's things like, oh, I did this thing at school and I really shouldn't have done that. Or like, oh, I made this choice and I brought this to school and I really shouldn't have. Or I was out with this person and something very minor low level happened. And so in conjunction or with a partnership with the Longmont Police Department, the officers are able to assess these cases as they come up and say, all right, this person is taking accountability for this thing that they did. And instead of writing them a ticket and sending them through the normal court system, they are giving them an opportunity to participate in restorative justice through LCJP. And so it is a very small staff, a very hardworking staff, and they have case managers that pair youth with a team of volunteers. And the end result is these conferences, and the responsible party shows up usually with a support system like a parent, guardian, or another adult, and they're able to come to this community often with the referring officer, a facilitator, a co-facilitator, 2 members of the community, and sometimes the harmed party, and to just have a space to take accountability for their actions. And so say it was something like shoplifting, and an 11-year-old went into Kohl's or some other store and was like, I want that lip gloss. I want that lip gloss. And so I'm going to take that lip gloss because I don't have a way to pay for it. Like, that is such a teachable moment to give to a young person, and to be able to give them the space to talk about it, to share why they made that choice. And at the end of the circle, there's a contract that is made in conjunction with everyone there to help repair the harms that were had. And so it is an incredible program, and it is just a way that I think people get to be more intentionally in community with each other, and to really get to hear other people's stories, and to show up for each other as
I
well.
love that. Find out about it.
A friend has been volunteering for them for a long while.
How long have you been doing it?
A couple of years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, they're incredible.
Yeah. I bet you learn a lot yourself too, right?
Every single time. I would say, because I don't get to go out on courses with young people as much anymore, a lot of my knowledge of K-pop and other trends comes from LCJP.
Yeah. So it's like a mediator kind of thing that you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm a community member there, and so my role is to really just show up. I say my name and like where I live, basically. Like, I'm Marina, I'm a community member, and I live in Boulder. And so it's not really about me. It's
You're just a witness.
Yeah, it's just how I experience that as a member of the community. Like, when you do X, this is how it impacts me as a member of this community, and then participate in like, how would this person restore harms that were made to the community generally.
So it's almost like, how can they make amends to the community for their wrong?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Instead of just, oh, here's this ticket, or, potentially go to juvie, or whatever the normal circumstance might be. I think that that's a great idea. And I'm sure it's still very nerve-wracking for a young person to sit in a room with all of these people and have this, but what a great learning experience that is.
Yeah, really, it's just it's seeing and connecting with like humans as other humans.
Right.
Like, any one of us makes poor choices in the course of our lifetime. And
have you ever made a poor choice?
I am 31 years old, 100%.
You sound like an angel, though, to me, with all these things that you're doing.
No.
Because you also volunteer for the Boulder Food Bank?
Boulder Food Rescue, another nonprofit here in town, food justice organization. I think we're about 11 years old, so I'm a board member there. And that also started out as a volunteer opportunity. So Boulder Food Rescue, they keep food in the community, I would say, more or less. And so in partnership with grocery stores, restaurants, they connect food that would otherwise be going to waste or is coming up on a sell-by date, and other community organizations who could use food. So
soup kitchens, things like that.
Who started it?
Yeah.
There's somebody that started it. Who's the founder?
So it was actually a
couple?
team of 5 people. So the executive director there is Hayden Dansky. Are you familiar with Hayden?
Yeah, I think it's Hayden.
Hayden's incredible.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah. And so it is, I think, one of the most amazing.
Yes, it's Hayden.
Yeah.
Yes,
Have you met Hayden on
I've
the
met
show?
Hayden. Yes. I've ridden in a car with Hayden. Yeah.
They're incredible.
They are something else.
Yeah. And so this food, it not only is providing healthy, produce between community members who need and want produce, who otherwise wouldn't be able to access it. But it's also sharing power and voice and decision making with people in the community who are, I would say, historically speaking, least likely to be able to be empowered in those ways. And so that is another big part of the organization, is providing and sharing those opportunities for leadership.
Has it grown really fast? I feel like the last time I checked out which was a couple of years ago, the website, it was just Hayden and maybe a few other people. Now it looks like it's huge.
Yes, I would say Boulder Food Rescue has a huge fan club.
Yeah.
And are doing really great work in the community.
Neat.
One of the biggest things that we have, or that's enabled some of that growth, Boulder has started, as you all probably know, the Health Equity Fund. So a few years back, they started the sugar sweetened beverage tax.
Yep.
Thank you. Tripping over my words here. And so there is a certain tax per ounce on sugary sweetened beverages in Boulder. And that money has gone into this health equity fund. And then that money...
I was curious where the money was going. I didn't know that.
It gets distributed through a grant-making process to nonprofits in serving residents of the city of Boulder. And so a lot of that, Women's Wilderness is also a recipient, Boulder Food Rescue is a recipient. It has been an incredible opportunity for us to continue or expand the services that are being offered in Boulder in service to healthier communities. Yeah.
Isn't that cool how that makes its way around?
It
right?
is. It is pretty special.
I think about the Boulder Food Rescue almost every single day.
Oh, tell me more.
Because I look at my produce and I think, is this really going bad? Because I remember Hayden telling me, like, there are so many things that we're just throwing away that could be eaten.
Yes.
And I've been eating so much more and actually like taking the time to see, like, can I eat this? Even at a client's house, they'll leave me produce and it's kind of maybe a soft tomato, but it's still, I cut it up and it's fine.
Yeah.
You know, and that's changed my way that I've been living. I think I even thought I need to participate or reach out to you guys.
There are opportunities. Yeah. So, we rely on, honestly, volunteers to do the delivery from grocery stores or from restaurants to the recipient sites. And one of the craziest, most amazing things about Boulder Food Rescue is it all happens on bike.
Yes.
Yeah. And so there's
I've seen the
also
bikes.
a huge intention there. If we are going to be repurposing all of this, then let's do it in the least impactful way possible. So anyone who is able to ride a bike or a tricycle is definitely more than welcome to join us as a volunteer.
Have you ridden the bikes?
Yeah, that's how I started. It is a really humbling experience. Yeah. The first couple of times I showed up in jeans and probably like Toms or something and went the wrong way up a very steep hill. And I was just like, oh my gosh, so much sweat is coming down my face right now. I'm such an amateur at this. But it gave me a really deep appreciation for literally the hundreds of people that are doing it every single week. Like there is not a day in the year that there are not volunteers out there
redistributing. There's a volunteer button right there.
Yeah,
right.
There's so many. So many volunteer opportunities in this world. I mean, it's a simple Google search away, you know, and there's so many different ways to give back.
And we have a lot at Women's Wilderness as well. We're always looking for volunteers specifically with our after school girls climbing program. So that might be something particularly relevant to the crowd that listens to her turn to talk. I was at speak.
And I'll put links on the website too.
Yeah,
so
fantastic.
If anyone who's listening is interested, you can click on that volunteer link.
Yeah, so we're always looking for volunteers to help support the instructors, people like Christy, in those climbing programs in Golden, in Englewood, and hoping to expand that program in the couple years to come. So please put that there as well.
Yeah, we definitely will.
Yeah.
How do you have time to be such an amazing athlete when you're doing all this volunteer work? Because you've done some pretty amazing stuff. Ironmans, triathlons.
A lot of Ironmans.
You did the big Kona World Championship. That's a big one, right? That one's the
is.
big deal.
And you're married on top of it all.
And I'm married. It helps to be married to someone who travels every week.
And he does this too.
He does this too. It's our happy place. It is like absolutely my happy place of being outside, of being in my body. As I said, like those real foundational experiences when you're a kiddo, sometimes it's hard to break them. And so being outside, spending time with my partner in those ways, spending time with friends here. So when I first moved to Boulder, the closest friends I have are people that I met through cycling. And so it's just like absolutely the best way that I know to spend my time. And it allows you to travel and experience places in really different ways. So yeah.
And you've got you're training for something now?
I am. So in November, I qualified for the World Championships for Ironman 70.3, and so that's on the North Island of New Zealand. So I will be
so exciting.
Spending Thanksgiving on the other side of the world.
That's amazing. Are you going to take some extra time to hang out there?
I hope so. I hope so. I don't totally know what November is going to look like for me, but yeah, I hope so.
That's so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in awe of people who can do these Ironmans. It's amazing.
It's just a long day outside. It's just like tweaking your mindset of like, it's just a long day outside, long day in the mountains. Yeah.
We've done some awesome stuff, but not quite that awesome. So it's pretty exciting.
Everyone has their
We've been
thing.
doing awesome stuff.
Yeah, totally. I fully agree. Everyone has their thing. This just so happens to be mine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that you describe it as 1.5 zillion Ironman distance races. I mean, it is admirable though, to think of all these things that you've done.
And you traveled to 23 countries?
Yeah, I like traveling.
That our bodies are capable of doing this thing. Like you were talking about, to be in your body. What do you mean by that? What does that feel like to be in your body, to be in your happy place? Can you describe that to us?
Yeah, it feels, in my mind, it feels calm. It feels peaceful. It feels free. It feels like I am like in absolute control over my mindset, my attitude, what I want to do in that moment. And there's not someone telling me how I should be in that moment, which doesn't always get to happen in the day-to-day. And in my body, it's like, I don't know, sometimes I think about it as like running being like my version of dancing. It's like, I just get to be right now. My body just gets to do the thing that it wants to do. And same with a bike. Like if you took any of these things away, your body would look so funny.
Do you like to dance?
I do. I definitely don't dance enough. It's so cathartic. But yeah, I would say like being able to make every single one of those decisions in any given activity or moment, and to see how that impacts your mental space as well.
Have you ever had an injury?
Yeah, lots actually. That's how I ended up doing triathlons. I had a lot of stress fractures in high school, and so ended up doing a lot of cross training through biking and swimming because my body was just like not having all of that running. And so lo and behold, I found a whole new sport out of it, and so started competing in triathlons in college. Yeah.
That's amazing. And it's a whole community for you, right?
It is. Yeah. My closest friends from college all came from triathlon, and there were all a total of 3 of us women on the triathlon team. And I still have very vivid memories of our coach being like, you 3, you're going to get drug around by the nose by all of your like male teammates. And then come race day, you're going to be so strong. And I don't know why that has like stayed in my mind for so long. Like one, it's true because it's so much more commonplace to have men that you're training with that are faster than you. But then I'm also like, but why? Like, why do I have to get drug around by men to get better? And so I think I've consistently tried to find women to train with over the years. And that speaks to the team aspect of who I want to not only be in community with, but also be a part of empowering as well. So it's not always just getting drug around by the men.
I love that. So you have your community of cheerleaders.
Yeah.
And you said your mom is your number one cheerleader.
Oh my gosh, yes. I wonder if she'll ever hear this podcast.
What if you tell her? She will.
Yeah. My mom has always been the person to envision a world that is bigger than the one that I currently occupy. And so over the last, as an example, the last 18 months or so, I've been in this process of studying for the LSAT and a goal to go to law school in the fall. And from day one, it was, well, after she got over the why are you doing this and what is this about, it was 100% of like when you are a lawyer, when you are doing this thing. And in ways that I think for folks who have moms in their lives still, like you hear it from your mom in this way that no one else can say that thing to you, and you just believe it because your mom thinks it of you. And so I think even though my mom and I are having really different experiences as me 31, and she probably had me at 31, knowing that we occupy really different spaces, but she is 100% supporter of whatever it is, that thing I want to do at any given moment. And she believes me, and she believes in like not only my capacity to do that thing, but that I will do it with intention and with a brain behind it, and not just like, oh, you're just making that decision based on X. Like, you've thought through that thing, and I believe in you, and I think you are strong and capable. And I don't know, feel really lucky to have that.
You are.
Is there anyone in your life that you feel that way about? The way that your mom feels about you, that you feel about them?
Totally. My crew, my like community of my team, I call them life people. I am really, really lucky to have probably like, I don't know, a dozen life people, and they are spread out all across the country. When my husband and I were first together, I made a map, and I put stars on all of the cities or small towns that my people were in, so he could get a mental map of like, who am I? Because I'm not just me. I'm like the sum of this amazing team. And I hope we still have it. It would be a pretty cool thing to get out and to just know that like people probably live in really different places right now, but we're still on the team. And so I would like to think that I am some version of that for every one of those women.
Isn't that so special how we can develop these friendships and connections with certain people? We don't have to be in their lives every single day to have that there. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like what a gift it is for anybody who can have a person that they can pick up a phone, and maybe they haven't seen that person in 2, 3, 10 years, but the conversation can just happen and they just know you. Yeah. How special, how lucky you are to have that many people in your life.
Yes, I do.
So wonderful.
So lucky. Yeah.
So amazing.
You talk about here in your questions, your answered questions, and we've talked a little bit about it, but the conscious and intentional decision making. Mm-hmm. That's a very specific thing you wrote.
Yeah.
What made you write that?
I think about it in terms of what are we constantly being influenced by in this world? Like, what are we thinking about? What choices we're making? And how many of those are made for us and we don't even realize it. So easy to think about it in like when you go grocery shopping and you pick something up off the shelf, like you can only make so many choices within that because you are not the person who's deciding what is in the grocery store, where that stuff is coming from. But I think it's super powerful when we think about our young people and girls specifically, and just like my own life, really. Like I grew up in the South. I went to school in the South.
Do you have sisters?
Nope.
No?
No, I would say. Yeah. Anyway, memory is coming back. My mom was very gender fluid in how she raised us. And for many Halloweens, I feel like I was in the more traditionally male costumes and my brother was in the more traditionally female costumes. We used to play flight attendant, and he would always wear the high heels, and I never got to wear the high heels. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, pretty great. But growing up in that community, I also come from a religious family. Went to Catholic high school or Catholic school through high school. And so what I was influenced by and what I was brought up to believe was just very specific and very particular. And it wasn't till going to school, going to a liberal arts school, and truly like as I started taking courses in women's and gender studies that I was exposed to things in my senior year of college that I had never thought about before and never stopped to question.
Can you remember any of those things?
Oh, yeah. It's a hard one to talk about in this space, but I'll go for it. The abortions and reproductive justice. I went to a high school where one of the unofficial field trips was going to the March for Life in Washington, D.C., and I never knew there was another side to that.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Now, I'm from Texas, and I got to tell you, I'm the same way. That growing up, it was kind of just told this is how it is and this is what it's going to be.
Right.
And not knowing until you get your own, education for yourself to realize, wait a minute, this isn't all there is. There's another side to this, and let me look at that.
And I want to be so clear that I do believe in a person's right to choose on either side. Like that is an individual woman's choice to make, in my opinion. And it was just never framed as a choice to me. And so I think about that. I think about I'm not unique in that experience. And it has been a really formidable one in terms of how are we providing the education, the opportunities for girls, for women, for any number of people to be making conscious choices that are authentic to them and are fully representative of the full perspective. And it's hard to do in today's world, but it means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And it ties back into something you said when you were talking about being in your body, and you said there was nobody telling you how you should be.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I get all of that from you, and no wonder you love doing what you do.
Yeah.
And it makes you happy, and just seeing the smile on your face, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, and it's that, I think, working at Knowles and working at Women's Wilderness and working in all these spaces, I think Women's Wilderness really is the culminating place for that. Laura Tyson, her thesis was conscious choice. And so being able to provide a space specifically for girls and non-gender binary youth to think about that conscious choice and to think about what that means for them, and being in support, in that supportive community of other girls or non-gender binary and instructors. And oftentimes it's the first time in their life they're having that support system. And we're not trying to push an agenda at Women's Wilderness by any means, but giving the space for girls to have those conversations younger. I don't know how old you all were when you started making those conscious choices, but I was well into my 20s.
No, I was fully an adult.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And so it's a pretty amazing gift that we're able to provide the space for.
Yeah. And it's amazing that you're this advocate out there. And I'm thinking to myself, gosh, she has touched so many people's lives in so many different ways with all of these things that you've done and all of these places you've traveled to. And isn't that kind of like a life goal to do, is just to, spread and be useful, be a people among people, and a worker among workers, and to just be here with these other people and just perhaps make a little difference. And that's what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. I
Well
appreciate
done.
that. Yeah, I mean, back at you. You all are elevating the stories of everyone who sits in this chair here.
We're trying. And well, that's what we're learning, because every woman that has sat in that chair has been absolutely amazing in their own special way.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so we feel lucky to have this privilege that we have to be able to do this as well.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for coming and talking to us today.
It's been a real pleasure. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marina.
If anyone is interested in Women's Wilderness and you may need financial assistance, you can learn about it by
visiting the website. There's financial aid available for all of our girls' courses. It is a big emphasis that we are able to make these courses affordable. So whether it's full scholarship or partial scholarships, we want to be able to make these opportunities happen. We've given away almost $500,000 in the history of the organization. We've never turned a girl away in need. And so please fill out the financial aid application on the website, or shoot us an email and we'd be glad to help you out.
If you have an interesting story, something funny, something sad, something you want the world to know, please please email us. We want you to share your experiences with us. We'll take these, we'll collect them, we'll do some episodes sometimes where we'll read them. So if you want to be anonymous, please just let us know. We won't read your name. If you want your name read, then we will. But send us those stories, comments to info@herturntotalkpodcast.com. And we also ask, if you like what you're hearing, please rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you.